Good evening, welcome to 5 News Tonight. I'm Matt Barbet. There were people who thought their lives were being saved by vital blood infusions. Instead, they were killed by contaminated supplies. And it's thought nearly 2,500 people died because of the scandal in the 1970s and 80s. Now, the Prime Minister said an inquiry will look into what happened. The disaster has been described as the worst in the history of the NHS. And the families of those who died believe mistakes were covered up, as Layla Hayes reports.
For decades, they've been fighting for justice, wanting to know why their loved ones were infected with contaminated blood. Now, following new evidence, the Prime Minister says an inquiry into the scandal will finally take place. Tony Farrugia was just 14 years old when his father Barry died of AIDS. He had haemophilia, a genetic condition that prevents blood from clotting, and was infected with HIV after being given contaminated blood.
It was devastating to lose your father to an illness that he should have never have been exposed to, and the fact that we then couldn't speak out. You know, the stigma was so bad. I couldn't talk to anybody. There wasn't anybody that you could sit and tell, oh, my dad's got HIV. You just couldn't.
In the 1970s and 80s, almost 5,000 people were given blood products infected with hepatitis C. 1,200 also contracted HIV. At least 2,400 people are thought to have died. Today, MPs in the House of Commons held an emergency debate on the issue. Labour welcomed the plans to hold an inquiry.
It was obviously a serious systemic failure. I think we need the strongest possible inquiry that can, if necessary, lead to prosecution and actions as a result of it, but above all, get to the bottom of it.
Campaigners say patients weren't told of the risks even after the dangers became clear. One former health minister says Britain shouldn't have imported blood from abroad.
We were relying on people who were being paid from it, people who were in prison, people who were in drug addicts, people who were really down and outs, who would never answer honestly a screening question like, have you been yellow, to try and discover whether somebody had had jaundice, which would have been from hepatitis.
2 of Tony's uncles also died after being given infected blood.
I don't want to see any more families go through what many families have already been through. You know, the government have had the option to stop this many, many years ago, and you know, as I say, people are still dying.
It's been described as the worst treatment scandal in the history of the NHS. Families like Tony's hope this inquiry will finally bring answers. Layla Hayes, 5 News.
With me now is Luke Phillips, and Luke contracted hepatitis C from a contaminated blood transfusion as a child, Luke, and that's because you're haemophiliac. Just remind people what haemophilia is.
So haemophilia is a bleeding disorder whereby basically we don't clot, our blood doesn't clot as well as other people's. There's lots of different types of haemophilia in terms of how bad you can be. So I'm a mild haemophiliac. I don't need treatment that often, only when I have a bleed.
But when you were a child, you were having blood transfusions, so you would get blood that could clot.
Correct. So basically, when I was a child, I had a small bleed in my mouth, and I was given Factor VIII. Factor VIII used to be taken from blood. So we weren't getting full blood transfusions, we were getting Factor VIII, which is a derivative of blood. So it was taken from people and put into us. Yeah.
And at the time, it was a potential lifesaver. Now you know that it gave you, well, a nasty sickness and nasty illness.
Correct. So, I mean, so I'd say I had a small bleed in my mouth. My mum absolutely rightly took me to hospital and in full trust that you're going to be looked after. You know, you've got to remember I was 18-month-old, I was a 2-year-old child, I had nothing, I was completely innocent, as all haemophiliacs were when they were given contaminated products. We were innocent men, children, brothers, fathers, and we were given contaminated blood products, and we were only acting to make ourselves better from Factor VIII, where we were having bleeds, and this was the treatment that we were offered.
And this is something that killed more than 2,400 people. I'm glad that you're still with us, but how much of an impact has it had on your life?
It's unbelievable. I mean, to be a part of that group, one, I'm incredibly proud to be a haemophiliac. I'm incredibly proud of the haemophiliacs in this country who have fought so hard for this, and the families who fought incredibly hard for their fathers that they've lost. the impact for me, OK, I'm lucky that I'm here, but is it the luck that anyone would want to have? Of course not. I'm not here speaking for myself. I'm here speaking for all of the haemophiliacs in this country and their families who have been through such a difficult, and they've been neglected and they've been forgotten.
And this has happened for years. Did it catch you by surprise then, the Prime Minister announcing this public inquiry?
Well, I've got to say, now we've got someone as fantastic as Andy Burnham standing up for us and talking about what we've been going through. I felt that potentially there was a bit more of a swing and that we were getting some traction. Yes, today has come as a real surprise, but one that I'm absolutely thrilled about at this point.
What do you hope happens next then? Because there's still a lot to be decided about how it will go about its business.
There's only one thing that we want, and that is the truth. At the moment, I do not know how I contracted hepatitis C. I know it came from blood products, but I don't know why it was given to a child, and I don't know why I was put under that amount of risk when it was clearly known that these blood products did carry risk. So for me and for all the haemophiliacs and their families, we want to know what happened. We want to know why it happened.
And that will become apparent in due course, and I'm sure we'll talk again about it, Luke. For now, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.